All right.
Hello, good morning, everybody. Okay, my screen has Mary's iPhone right in the middle of it. Okay, my name's Jennifer Huddleston Kelly, and I am an alcoholic. I've been kept sober since December 5th of 92, and that's my miracle. And it is an honor and a privilege to get to be here with you this morning. Now, I am going to say following Paula, not my favorite thing. But I do love getting to be with you and to share my experience, strength, and hope, because I remember when I didn't have any.
Jennifer,
Yes.
I hate to stop you because you look so beautiful and you're about to go into it. We need to mute everybody.
Okay, that's cool.
And you're going to get muted, so we're going to have you unmute.
Okay, cool.
And I just wanted to tell you, you look so beautiful.
Oh, thank you. And she's back. Okay, cool. So, I'm gonna tell you in a general way what I was like, what happened, and what I'm like now, with some pretty narrow confines. I really like to, when we do this, to kind of stick with my step and stay in my lane. But you kind of have to have a running start at, hey, I'm an alcoholic. So how am I going to convince you I'm an alcoholic? So here's probably where I'm going to start with that. I'm a drunk who loves to drive. I love to drive. I don't love going to jail. And it took me a really long time to figure out that the drunk driving was leading me to jail. And so for several years of my of my drinking, I committed myself to solving my driving problem. And so I moved next door to a bar, and I thought that the problem was solved. But wherever I go, there I am, and I bring alcoholism with me, and I don't even know I have it. I don't know that it's progressive, and I don't know that it's fatal, and I don't know that it's affecting everyone around me. I am so filled with self and fear and self-sufficiency that I think that I'm going to manage this all on my own. And not surprisingly, the bottom fell out in every sense of the word. I found myself bankrupt, as the book says. I found myself absolutely lost and crazy and alone. And all I want is for somebody to love me. And all of my actions have shoved everyone who adores me away. I'm living at my parents' house because they're afraid I'm going to die. I don't think it's because they want me there. I think it's because they're afraid I'm going to die, and so they let me live at their house. And while I'm living at their home near the end of my drinking, I pick up a felony DWI. And now, I don't just have a driving problem; I have a legal problem. And I walk into the doors of Alcoholics Anonymous thinking I got to get out of this legal problem. Again, I'm not fully convinced that I'm alcoholic, and that I become convinced sitting in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, listening to you sharing your experience, strength, and hope, and beginning to identify. And actually, that began in my very first meeting. The first guy that I could relate to in Alcoholics Anonymous. Of course, it was a guy. Why would I listen to the women? The first guy that I relate to in Alcoholics Anonymous has bib overalls on. He has long hair and a long beard, and he looks like a missing cast member from Duck Dynasty. And he says, I didn't know I was an alcoholic. I just thought I was thirsty. And I'm thinking, yes, perfect. And he said, my problem is the more I drink, the thirstier I get. And that begins with the very first drink. And he solved a mystery with 2 short sentences. The more I drink, the thirstier I get. And that begins. So the whole ball game for a drunk like me is how not to take that first drink, and I think meetings and you will do it, but unfortunately they don't. It's not enough. It's just not enough. And so I go to a lot of meetings because I fell in love with you right away. And it wasn't that I was convinced that Alcoholics Anonymous was going to have a solution for me. It was that I liked you. You were fun and you were funny. And you were comfortable in your own skin, and you were kind. You were ridiculously kind. And for a good portion of my early sobriety, God showed up disguised as your kindness in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I don't ever want to forget that we are the introduction to God for most newcomers. We are. Uh-oh. So, uh, being convinced that we're at step 3, just what do we do? What do we mean by this, and what do we do? That's my question. And when I was thinking about talking on this week, for some reason, there is a story from my early sobriety that came up that I don't think I've ever told in completion from a podium. I know I've told lots of sponsees this story, but for some reason, it's on my heart that I need to tell you about the weekend I spent in jail sober. Not to be confused with just the day I spent in jail sober. That was 9 years later. This is the weekend I spent when I was new sober. And I had to go to jail for 3 days on a felony DWI, which in and of itself was God working in my life, because I had been told that I would spend a year in jail as a result of my felony DWI. And I didn't think I could do that. The thought of spending a year in jail absolutely had me suicidal. I am not tough. I'm big, but I am not tough. I am a weenie, and my weapon of choice is projectile weeping. And so jail horrified me, because there's girls who can handle themselves up in there, and I cannot. And so I go, and at the insistence of my attorney, I go to this meeting with, I don't know, a probation officer, and they do an interview to make suggestions about my sentencing. And for some unbelievable reason, I sit down across from someone who I now believe either had to be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous or a member of Al-Anon, because I got quizzed for an hour about Alcoholics Anonymous. What are the 3 legacies? What's the format for your Monday night meeting? What's your sponsor's phone number? Which I'm glad it was back then, because I knew my sponsor's phone number. Now I rely on a cell phone. But she asked me, what did you do for step 1? What did you do for step 2? What step are you on now? Who was the most recent speaker at your home group? There were so many questions. And she became convinced that I really was an active member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I was going to 3 meetings a day. And they made a suggestion that even my attorney was like, I cannot believe that you just got this, you're doing a weekend. That's it. And so I have to go off for my weekend in jail. And that has me throwing up, and I'm so self-centered. Like Paula talked about, every meeting I have to share first off. And I need to tell them about going to jail. I'm going to jail. And I kind of forget, like, there are people who they were in prison, they did real things. And I'm going off for summer camp for 3 days at what the jail in Dallas that they called the Country Club. And I'm not sure about why you call that the Country Club. They've clearly never been to a country club, because it was not. But so I'm going to jail, and my sweet little school teacher mom is going to drive me to jail. And my mom is a total rule follower. Like, the worst thing she's ever done was wear pants at Baylor on the day she was not supposed to wear pants. And she's driving me to jail. And because we're conscientious, we get to jail hours early, because apparently I was in a big hurry to get to jail. And so my mom says, do you want me to wait for you? And the only thing that I am certain of is that I do not want my little English teacher mom waiting for me to check in at jail. And so I send her off, and I sit down. I check in at jail, and I sit down in the lobby, and there's nothing to do. Like, there's Kindles don't exist yet. I hate that I'm now that lady that says, back when I got sober, we didn't have cell phones. But back when I got sober, we didn't have cell phones, and we didn't have Kindles, and I didn't have any entertainment. And one of my big things is I must always be entertained. And so I'm sitting at jail, and I don't want to make eye contact with anybody. It's not like we're going to chat, and because all we could talk about is, what are you in for? And so I'm looking for something to do. And I noticed that everybody comes in and checks in at this desk thing, and then they go to this room over here. And so I begin to study, check in here, go over there, check in here, go over there. And because I'm a helper kind of gal, I've already checked in. And so I go over there. And over there you fill out all this paperwork and I don't really, so I go in and I say, hey, I'm here for jail. And they have me fill out all this paperwork and it takes a while. And by the time I get back to the lobby after being such a helper, there is this woman who is mean. She works there and she's really mean and she's yelling, Huddleston, Huddleston, which is my maiden name. And I'm like, what? And she said, where were you? And I was like, I was in the room filling out the paper. She said, who told you to go into the room? And I'm like, nobody told me to go in the room. I just saw that everybody was going in the room. You don't go anywhere, and she's shouting at me. And I'm thinking, yo, I'm just trying to help. And apparently in jail, you're really not supposed to take some initiative. And I swear to you, on a big book, my thought is, this woman is talking to me like I'm a criminal. And see, I completely kind of forget that I'm a criminal. That's why she talks to me that way. It is indeed what I am. But I'm not real clear on that. And so because I did this thing where I disappeared for about an hour, which is frowned on in jail, when it was time for me to get my jumpsuit, I got the special jumpsuit, which had air conditioning. It was split from the armpit to the ankle on both sides. And so I spent the weekend just trying to hold my jumpsuit shut. And I was cuter then, by the way. I was much younger and much cuter then. And I was frightened because now I have on the air conditioned orange jumpsuit. And this is how I enter jail. And I have 6 months sober. I've just gotten 6 months sober. And I've just said the third step prayer with my sponsor. And now I'm going to jail. And in my special jumpsuit. And the reason that I thought of this when I was thinking about, because there's more jail story. Oh, just wait, there's more. But the reason I thought about that is this line that says, the first requirement is that we be convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. On that basis, we are almost always in collision with something or somebody, even though our motives are good. That's the most annoying line in the big, even though my motives are good, I'm screwing stuff up, trying to be good. And I think I'm doing this good thing that I've gone off to be a helper and fill out my paperwork before anybody has to bother with me because I'm a little go-getter. And instead, I'm suddenly in collision with this jail guard who is mad at me. And all I'm trying to do is be helpful. And then I start looking back over my life and I start seeing all these ways in which I think I'm doing the right thing. I think I'm helping people. I think I'm being kind. And I'm creating chaos because I'm trying to control. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to control. I'm trying to make sure we get the right outcome so that I can be comfortable. And side note, I don't like to be supervised, like at all. I'm a little go-getter. And so I don't like people telling me what to do. And I kind of gather that in the third step, I'm supposed to be surrendering that. But see, I'm a helper and I'm a big picture kind of gal. I bet you I was told 9 times to put a number 1 before my name when I signed up for this thing. Only I got busy and I was doing other stuff. And I was reminded multiple times. And then I sign in and I knew I was supposed to put a number 1 next to my name. And the first thing that pops up is somebody telling me, hey, put a number 1 by your name. And I'm thinking, I know that. Stop supervising. Everybody's just doing their little job. And let me tell you, it's about a 75% chance that I'm going to forget to put a number 1 by my name. this time happened to be the one time I didn't forget. I just couldn't figure out how to freaking do it because I don't ask questions either. But we'll get to that later. So here I am in jail, and I've got on my jumpsuit, and I've brought this gigantic purse because, oh, by the way, I know they're going to take my driver's license from me. So I've started riding the bus. But I don't answer questions. I mean, like, I don't ask questions. So I've got to have this giant purse because I often get on the wrong bus. And because I get on the wrong bus and I don't say, does this bus go to Plano? I may wind up in South Dallas. So I have to have snacks and books and things because it could take me 45 minutes to get home from work. It could also take me 3.5 hours because I just get on a bus. When I get tired of standing and waiting on a bus, I just get on a bus. And so I have this gigantic purse.
Record your live.
But apparently, you're really not supposed to take your purse into jail. I did not know this. And they're really annoyed with me. This woman's already not happy about me, being a little go-getter helper. And so they take this purse and she's got to put it in a file drawer, and it does not really fit in a file drawer. And for those of you who haven't been to jail for the weekend, there's going to be this one door that opens, and then you go in here, and then they shut this door, and then they open this door, and then they take you to your little cubby. And while I'm standing in, and I've got the cuffs on, which by the way is not optional. My sister asked me, "Did you wear the cuffs?" Like I had a choice. So I put the cuffs on, and she says right before she lets me in to the jail part, "Is there anything you need from your purse to bring in?" And I go, "Nope." And they shut the door and they open the other door. And then I think, wait, you can bring stuff in? And I don't know, because I've never been to weekend jail, that you can bring stuff in. So I don't bring anything in. Which means I have the whole weekend where I don't have a toothbrush, toothpaste, any things that a person might need over the weekend while they're in jail. So here I am. I've just said the third step prayer, and I'm in jail, and I don't have any stuff, and I've got my air-conditioned jumpsuit on, and it's not going well. It's not going well at all, and I've just turned my will and my life over to the care of God. And here's the thing. When I went through the book with a sponsor the first time, or the second time, or the fourth time, I thought they were talking about if only my arrangements would stay put, being when I was drinking. We're talking about sober. Things aren't going my way sober. When I'm drinking, I can roll with it. When I'm sober, I want things. I've got an idea. I know what I want. I know how things. I'm the keeper of the big picture now. I have some skin in the game on how I want things to turn out, on how I want people to act, on where I want to end up, on how much money I need to make, on who needs to be my friend, on what AA group I'm supposed to speak at. That was a big deal when I was new sober. Oh, Lord, I knew exactly when I would have arrived, which group I needed to speak at to know that I had arrived in Alcoholics Anonymous. God knew that too, and that's why every woman I sponsor spoke there 3 times before I got invited to speak at that group. And the day I got invited to speak to that group, Clancy was in town. Nobody showed up. It was fantastic. I got the joke. So here I am, and I'm trying to figure out step 3. I'm trying to figure out, how do I turn my will and my life over to the care of God? What am I supposed to do here? What I'm supposed to do is I'm supposed to surrender, but I don't know how to give up. I don't know how to let go of control. I don't know how to trust God. Because you guys keep saying, just let go and let God, just let go and let God. How? Nobody told me how. And during this time of my sobriety, I'm asking everybody I know. I'm in meetings, and I'm chairing meetings, and I'm asking, how do you surrender? And let me tell you the profound answers I get in Alcoholics Anonymous when you say, how do you surrender? Let me tell you what old timers will say. I don't know. You'll know when you're done. That's what they say. I don't know. You'll know when you're done. How will I know when I'm done? Could you give me a hint on that? You'll know. You'll know when you know. That's the kind of cryptic crap people in AA tell you. And I don't know how I'm supposed to know that I've surrendered to God, that I've let go, that I've turned my will and my life over to the care of God. You guys talk about thoughts and actions. Am I giving my thoughts and my actions to God? I don't know. There's a lot of thoughts up here. There's a lot of thoughts. I'm kind of an idea machine. And my actions, well, some of them. Like if you're watching, I'm pretty well behaved. If you're watching. If you're not, I seal things. Not much anymore. But that didn't go away quickly. That didn't go away just because I got sober. I started looking like somebody who doesn't steal things. It got much easier to steal when I didn't look like a thief. And yet I'm walking around knowing those things. And I'm walking around knowing that God knows those things. I'm sober and I know God knows. And I can't seem to get good enough for God. And I'm crying because I spent a real long time in sobriety trying to get good enough to really let God have me. I didn't know I was going to do that. Crap. Okay, so I never do. It happens at Kroger, and I never know it's going to happen there either. And so I got to figure out, how do I let this stuff go? How do I let God have me? How do I give up? And I'm not really sure how. During this time when I was, getting ready to take the third step prayer, and right after, I'd become really obsessed with God's will. And back then, I'm new sober. I think God's will is who's my boyfriend and where's that high paying job. Just answer those two things, and the rest of it we've got pretty well taken care of. Because when I have the right boyfriend and the good job, I won't need to bother you much, Lord. And it's so funny to me that women like me struggle so much with this idea of surrender. I don't know how to surrender. I don't know how to let God have me. How will I let God have me? Let me just tell you something. I get a boyfriend who says, I like your hair long. I'm growing my hair. I get a boyfriend who says, I don't like when you wear that much makeup. I'm wiping this stuff off, sister. You want me to quit my job? Done. You want me to get another job? Done. You like pizza every Tuesday? Done. I know exactly how to give my will and my life over to people. I've been doing it all along. And I'm crazy when I don't have somebody to turn my will and my life over to the care of. I'm seeking someone to surrender to when I don't have someone to surrender to. But you guys say, here's a power of good who wants nothing but to love and take care of you. And I go, wait a minute. What's the catch? And why is that so terrifying? Why is it so terrifying to me to turn my will and my life over to this power that I've chosen, I've chosen a power that I know loves me and forgives me and wants nothing but good for me? Why am I having so much trouble absolutely giving God all of it, like including money and boys? Why am I having such a hard time with that? You know the answer, and I do too, because I'm afraid God doesn't want what I want. I'm afraid God doesn't want what I want. And because I'm afraid God doesn't want what I want, drunk or sober, I move him in before I can find out if he's a bad idea. You got to get them on the lockdown before you know their last name or their marital status, because I gotta move fast. I got to get things happening. I got to do relationships at the speed of microwave, because I need to get you in here and get you on lockdown before the information that reveals this probably isn't a good idea comes into focus. It sounds insane, don't it? But I got to do 5 4th steps before I can figure this stuff out. I got to have some bad ideas stone cold sober. I got to run with self-will stone cold sober before I start looking at, wow, this is my best thinking. This is me managing my life. This is what it looks like. It looks like me going to jail sober. It's like me overdrawing my bank account repeatedly sober. It's me writing hot checks sober. It's me being dishonest and getting caught over and over and over again sober. It's the person who never got fired drunk getting fired sober. Not just once, not just twice, but sometimes with double digits because I'm running on self-will. And during this time that I'm trying to figure out what it is that I'm supposed to do, I have this dream. And the dream is that I'm on the balcony of a burning down apartment complex. The apartment that I'm in is burning down. I am on the balcony. There's smoke everywhere. And on the ground, there's members of AA. And I know because you say, hey, it's us, the members of AA. And I say, help, help, my apartment's on fire. And you say, jump off the balcony. And I go, why? And you say, because your apartment's burning down and we've got a net. And I say, I can't see the net. And they say, that's how we got down, just jump. And I'm like, I really want to see the net. Can I please see the net? And then I will jump off the balcony. And how many people are holding the net? Because that's important information too. And they keep saying, seriously, fire, jump off the balcony. We got a net. We will catch you. And I'm wanting some details about the net and the size of the people holding the net and how many people are holding the net. And what I kind of forget is that the building's burning down. That life as I know it no longer exists for me, and it's never going to get better. I'm an alcoholic. I cannot drink successfully, and yet I will drink whether I want to or not if I don't take this leap. And I want to negotiate taking this leap of faith. I want to negotiate. If you'll just let me know how this is all going to work out, then I'll hop off this balcony. And what I don't realize, because I don't know and I don't have any experience, is I'm only on the second floor. They're there. That's how it really is, how you all got there too. All I had to do was just take this step, but I don't know that. It seems like this gigantic thing, but really all I need to know is step 1 and step 2. Step 1, I'm screwed. Step 2, maybe you don't have to be. Step 3 is kind of a no-brainer. The building is burning down. Are you going to trust that what we have told you is true? Or are you going to do it yourself and stay in that building? Because I know what happens if I stay on the balcony of a burning building. That's really step 3. It's not that spiritual. It's survival. It's just survival. It's choosing between my will and God's will. And I know the results of my will. I prove it over and over and over again. I cannot manage myself well. But here's the thing, I get a little bit of sobriety and I start thinking, I'm surrendering to God. And the truth of the matter is, I'm just surrendering to a better version of myself, which leads to more embarrassment. That's how I wound up in jail at almost 10 years of sobriety. I threw away a ticket, thought I was slick. I thought I could manage well. I don't really speed. I'm not going to run a red light. We'll be fine. And I wind up in jail on the way to go speak somewhere because I'm managing well. I wind up in a relationship that breaks my heart and I wind up suicidal because I'm managing well. My sponsor had told me this was not healthy and it wasn't going well. She had to tell me because I was willing it. And when I'm willing it, I'm not really paying attention to details, like I'm miserable. I'm making it happen. That's what I do. And so I start turning my will and my life over to the care of a better version of myself instead of this God that loves me. And what happened to me was that I got suicidal sober in the middle of Alcoholics Anonymous with a bunch of sponsees traveling around talking. And I don't want to drink, but I'm not real sure I want to live anymore. And I don't want to tell anybody because then they'll find out that I'm a big fraud in AA, just like I was out there. And so I've got this friend and okay, I'm looking at time. So I've got this friend and she's reading a spiritual book and and it's changing her life, and she loves it very much, and she needs me to read it. I don't know if you've ever had a friend like that, but they're so annoying because she just loves the book and she needs you. I will buy you the book. So she buys me the book. I'm not reading the book. I don't want to read the book. I've got a bunch of books. I've got a bookshelf full of these books. My sister's a Jesus person. She sends me a lot of books to fix me. I don't read her books. I read about, the title and the back of it. And then I go, no, it's not my kind of book. And that's her book is one of these Jesus books. And I don't want to read the Jesus book. Ugh. Because I know it's going to be this, and it works for her, but it's not my jam. Only she's not going to shut up every phone call. Have you read the book yet? Have you started the book yet? You're going to love this book. It's fantastic. You're going to love the book. I'm not going to read the book, but she will not. I mean, she's just pecking me to death over the stupid book. And so just to shut her up, I start reading the book. And this is not a conference approved book, so we're not really going to talk specifically about the book. I'm just going to tell you it was a Jesus book, and I start reading it, and I hate it. It is an emotionally manipulative book. It starts out with a tragic event to rip your heart out, and I'm feeling really conned right from the start because I know where we're going with this, and whatever. But So she calls me, have you read the book? How's the book coming? I'm like, I don't know, it's not well written. And no, you haven't gotten to the good part yet. And so she keeps on and on about this stupid book. And I'm reading the book, and in the book, it talks about, after this emotionally manipulative thing happens, then this person meets different manifestations of God, and they look different, and they have different names, and some are men and some are women and some are Asian, and anyway, Black, and I find that mildly interesting. It's not a good book, but it's getting better a little. But it's not my thing. But she's just not. You got to get to the end. You got to get to the end, and just to shut her up, I finished reading the book. No. What's important is not the book, because I know there's going to be 9 people saying, "What's the book?" The book is not what's important in the story. I'm telling you, when it's time, God will use whatever is at God's disposal. God will use the phone book. Like y'all know what phone books are. Anyway, y'all are old enough to know what a phone book is. But anyway, God will use whatever that is. It'll be a movie. It'll be some obnoxious girl at work. It'll be a fortune cookie. God will use whatever is at God's disposal. Well, at this time, it's Abby and this stupid book. And so I'm reading this book, and we get to the last scene, and the very last character of God that shows up is named Sophia. And this character is God's judgment. And it just so happens that this always slays me. I have a niece named Sophia. And when Sophia was born, like right out of the chute, she just loved me in the weirdest way. Like she wanted to breathe my air and think my thoughts. She glommed onto me, and she just, with my nieces, I'm Auntie Hoot. And she wanted whatever Hoot wanted. And she wanted to go wherever Hoot was going. And she wanted to do whatever Hoot was doing. And she wanted the same color as Hoot. And I've always questioned why she liked me so much. She has 2 sisters, and I was like, did I treat her differently than the others? And I realized I probably was harder on her than I was on the other girls, because she was so, clingy. And but I was just inexplicably and unconditionally loved. And so I'm reading this stupid book, and this character of God's judgment is named Sophia. And I'm thinking about my niece, Sophia. And somewhere these 2 ideas crash. And what comes together for me is that God's judgment is that I am inexplicably and unconditionally loved. And I'm standing in the backyard, and it seems like this is going to be this beautiful moment when the skies open up and the angels sing, and I take my place as God's special girl. But instead, it's more like Captain Dan and Forrest Gump, where he's like, ah, and he's yelling at God. That's kind of how my surrender went. I'm like, okay, fine. Fine. You can just love me no matter what. Fine. I don't think this is going to go well with you. And I don't think it's a good idea. But fine. You can just love me no matter what. And I started walking in the world pretending that nothing I can ever do will make God love me any less, and nothing I can ever do will make God love me. And nothing in my life changed. And yet everything in my life changed. Every single thing in my life changed. Because I let go and I let God. And I stopped telling him what his love had to look like. And I started looking for evidence of it. And during that time, I fell in love with a guy that I wouldn't go on a date with, because God has better plans than I do. And during that time, there were all these things that just started falling into place. And when I remember that God's will is better than mine, it's easy to give it up, unless I get too afraid that God doesn't want what I want. And in those moments when I decide I know what I want and I know what's best for me, I forget that what God wants for me is always better. It's always better. I don't even know how to want what God wants for me. When I spend all this time and all this effort and all this energy trying to make myself happy, and with all this evidence that I don't know what's best for me, I continue to pick out the new thing. I was thinking about what really does make me happy. And because I've been shopping for some, my sponsor's watching right now, and she can just put her hand right over her. And I've been looking at some very expensive computers, a laptop that will make me happy. I'm not sure why I need a laptop, because I sit at this desk where there's already a computer. But I'm planning on things. And I've been looking at trips, and I paid off my car, but now I'm thinking that I need to repaint and decals on the car, and the leather inside needs to be replaced. And so I'm picking out all these things that will make me happy. And then I ask myself this very strange question: what has made me happy in the last year? What's made me happiest, other than the people in my life? That's a no-brainer. But what has made me happier in the last year? Two things: a ukulele and a bird feeder. A ukulele and a bird feeder. Grand total, about $70. I didn't come up with either of those ideas, by the way. I didn't come up with either of those ideas, but I spend half my day checking out what's going on in the bird feeder, and the other half of the day wishing I were playing the ukulele. Because I don't know what's best for me. I don't know what's best for me. God knows what's best for me. He created what's best for me. Music and nature and friendship and service and love. None of those things ever sound like what will make me happy. And yet I've never known the same kind of joy as I find helping other women in Alcoholics Anonymous. Nothing else lights me up like that does. Even my husband acknowledges that. Like, go, find another one. Because God knows what's best for me. So I get down on my knees with the sponsor and I say, God, I offer myself to thee to build with me, to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help, of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. We're not asking him to take away the difficulties so that we can be comfortable or successful or whatever else. It's so that we can bear witness. It's so that I can be an example of God's power, God's love, and God's way of life. That's it. It's so I can serve others. That's why. And anytime I forget, that's why I'm off track and I'm back in self-will. Because I'm looking at results and not what I'm supposed to be doing. When I did that prayer with a sponsor on my knees for the first time, She read the very next line. It says, we thought well before taking this step, making sure we were ready, that we could at last abandon ourselves utterly. Abandon and utterly. Those are big words. And I thought, we did not think well. We did the prayer and then he warned you to think well. But I don't have to think well about step 3. I need to think well about steps 1 and 2. I'm screwed and maybe I don't have to be. Step 3 is kind of a no-brainer. But the promise that comes with step 3 is that all sorts of remarkable things follow. We had a new employer, being all powerful. He provided what we needed if we kept close to him and performed his work well. Established on such a footing, we became less and less interested in ourselves, in our little plans and designs. More and more, we became interested in seeing what we could contribute to life. As we felt new power flow in, as we enjoyed peace of mind, as we discovered we could face life successfully, we became conscious of his presence. We began to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, or the hereafter. We were reborn. There's only one period of time that it doesn't address: today, tomorrow, or the hereafter. It doesn't address the past. How do you know that you've done the 3rd step? You begin the 4th. That's how we know. And so I guess to end up, the 3rd step let me out of jail. The rest of the steps set me free. I'm glad to be here. It's a good day to be sober.
That was absolutely
That
fabulous.
was wonderful. Thank you so much, Jennifer.
Oh my God, you are so good. Mwah.